When you're trying to transform any company or any situation, the first thing you need is a shake-up of the system. Leaders sometimes have to do it by themselves, create a burning platform. India is uniquely placed to take advantage of this whole wave of Industry 4.0 because India has established itself as a IT or a software powerhouse, right? So this engineering talent, along with now established track record of software engineering, is really combining to make India a destination of choice for many, many multinationals. Many a times you fail. The project you're doing doesn't work out, or the kind of career step you take is not the one that you had imagined. So the key is how to bounce back from that.
My guest today is more of a friend than a guest, Mr. Parag Satpute, the CEO of Bridgestone India. He has been a winner of the ET Inspiring CEO Award and also been awarded the Lifetime Achievement Award by Manufacturing Today. What I most admire about him is that he has been a hardcore manufacturing person in today's software world. Welcome to the Learning Club, Parag.
Thank you, Bharat. It's a great pleasure to be talking to you today and sharing some of my professional journey with you.
Parag, I know your journey very well, but for the sake of our audience, would love to know about your professional journey.
I believe I've been very fortunate. I've had the opportunity to work in multiple countries and in multiple functions. I started out here in India working as a trainee through VIT Sandwich program in a company called Varsila Diesel. It was an immersive training program and I learned a lot. But most importantly, I learned that I enjoy interacting with people. So I chose to begin my career in sales and marketing. And the first part of my career was spent in sales and marketing, largely with Sandvik as product manager and a sales head here in India. But very soon, I was fortunate enough to get an assignment as a global marketing manager with Sandvik in the UK. In fact, I was the first expat out of Sandvik Asia to go into the global organization. I spent 7 years in the UK. I must say one of the most intense but highly educational part of my life and my career. And from there, I got multiple opportunities, got a chance to live in Germany, in Sweden.
Right.
And what I believe was most exciting for me, also from a personal point of view, got to come back to India as the managing director for Sandvik Asia, the same company where I started as a sales engineer.
Wow.
And then in the last 5 years, I transitioned from Sandvik into Bridgestone. And for the last 5 years, I've been leading Bridgestone India as the MD.
At the age of 41, becoming the managing director of Sandvik Asia, a global MNC. Tell us more about it.
Well, I must tell you that it was overwhelming, very emotional for me, because I started in that company as a sales engineer. And to go a full circle, come back to the same company as the MD, and was really a great feeling for me. Made all the more special by the kind of welcome I received from all my teammates. You know, people who I'd worked with on the shop floor, in the offices, they were so happy to see that someone from within has risen to take that important position. Alongside, when I came to Pune, the business community in Pune was also very surprised, but pleasantly surprised. I remember meeting colleagues from CII who were very, surprised on two fronts: to see an Indian person and that to a young person. Because typically, MNCs, especially Swedish MNCs at that time, they send their senior statesmen from Sweden, from Europe, to head up the Indian operations. So it was a wonderful feeling, and it was a matter of pride for myself, a matter of honor also for the family.
Wow. Then you moved from Sandwich Asia to Bridgestone. So why this shift? And also would love to understand from you, you worked in a Swedish MNC and now, of course, in a Japanese MNC. I'm sure there would be a lot of cultural differences that as an organization you would have felt between these two. So would love to also understand those differences or those impact of those cultures on your work.
An important question, a good question. It was a significant decision that I took, and in fact, my family took when we decided to move away from Sandvik. I'd worked with Sandvik 21 years. I had worked in multiple countries. I was well known in the system. I had established a strong track record. So to make a shift was not an easy decision. The reason I decided to make this shift is I wanted to test myself and put myself outside my comfort zone. Really figure out whether the skills I had learned through my career in Sandvik could also be applied in other settings. So that was the motive to make the change. And actively chose something which would be very different from Sandvik. At that time, I had opportunities to work with other Swedish MNCs, but I chose to go to Bridgestone precisely because I felt it would be quite different from what Sandvik was. And then to your second question is, what are these differences and how does one cope with that? So as cultures, Swedish culture versus Japanese culture are very different, almost like chalk and cheese. Swedish, European, more informal, relaxed. The Japanese culture, I learned very quickly, is very formal, quite hierarchical. That's a difference in the country cultures, and that overlays onto the corporate cultures. So it was a big shift, but that's what I had wanted, and that's what I experienced. What I do believe is that when you are put in a situation which is not familiar to you, at that time, leaders then tend to take the time to think through rationally. And that's when the best decisions, the best actions come through. And this I experienced firsthand. When I went into Bridgestone, it was a new industry for me. It was a new business model. It was a new corporate culture. So I really had to think hard, work hard to arrive at the right decisions. And that I believe has made me a better leader and has led to better business results.
Business results. 5 years back, you took over as the MD of Bridgestone India. And today, after 5 years, I understand the revenues have doubled. What led to this transformation?
Now, we have had a phenomenal run. As a team, as a company, we have had a phenomenal run. First of all, it is a very solid company. As a global leader, the technology, the quality, there is no doubt about that. It's what was important was to get the right business model in India and to get all the people pointing in the same direction. I think that was my biggest contribution to this company.
In this software world, you are a hardcore manufacturing man. We also know you are the chairman of the National Manufacturing Council. What is your advice to students who are contemplating the career in manufacturing, who are maybe fence sitting, shying away?
Well, honestly, I believe this is the best time to be in manufacturing. And let me explain why. Over the last 3-4 years, we have been talking about Industry 4.0. Yes. I have a very simple explanation of what Industry 4.0 is. It's a convergence of the IT and software world with the brick and mortar world, right? Because that's when you can capture value.
You mentioned about Industry 4.0 and all the other terms. Parag, what do you see the future of manufacturing in our country?
I was just coming to that point. I think India is uniquely placed to take advantage of this whole wave of Industry 4.0 because, first of all, we have a very strong demographic, as we know, a lot of young people studying to be engineers coming into the working world. Secondly, the last couple of decades, India has established itself as a IT or a software powerhouse, right? So this engineering talent, along with the now established track record of software engineering, is really combining to make India a destination of choice for many multinationals. So companies are coming here initially to just set up their back offices, but now more and more to set up their R&D centers, their manufacturing bases. The next decade is going to be a phenomenal journey for India and for this space, which is manufacturing and software together. Wow. So I would advise any young engineers from VIT or other colleges to consider this as one of the best career opportunities going forward.
Perfect. One part, another bit from the story so far is that you quickly went on to managing people. You have put a lot of importance to people. Tell us more about it.
I'm a strong believer in that. And maybe in the first phase of my career, I could have achieved a lot without relying on other people. I put in the extra hours, I made the extra trips. So you could achieve your objectives based on your own energy, time, and effort. But if you grow beyond that, there is a limit to how many hours there are in a day. There is a limit to how much one person can do. So you have to rely on others. And that's when understanding how to get the best out of people becomes the most important thing. So I think what I learned in that second phase is take the time to understand your teammates, figure out what their strengths are, and then provide them the opportunity to leverage those strengths. That's one big learning.
Right.
And one other thing is, and this I think is very critical for young managers or young leaders coming in place, is always try to build a team who is different from you. So if you have a particular strength, say I am good at sales and marketing, but I realize I'm not a very deep manufacturing guy, though you call me but that's not my core. I'm good at understanding business models. So I've made an effort to build in my team that manufacturing capability and not be afraid of bringing people who are even stronger than you in the team, because together you can make a winning combination.
We normally assume that CEOs are super duper busy people, swamped by thousands of emails and WhatsApp messages every day. I know Parag, being the friend, that he normally has a clean inbox, plays golf here and there, and also brings out time for CI and YPO activities. Parag, we struggle with all this. How do you manage your time?
Yeah, well, if you have the right people around you and if you have systems and processes, then there's no reason why you have to be full-time engaged in managing your email or doing micromanagement in the company. That's my philosophy. But it's not an overnight thing. I can also tell you that. I don't want to make it sound too easy. When I was new in my roles, of course, I put in a lot more time and effort to understand and to put the right people and systems in place. But at the same time, I think it is important once you mature in your role to give space to your team. That's number one. Secondly, also as an individual, if you're 24/7 just focus on your work, then I can tell you you're going to be miserable. Thirdly, the development that you experience is enhanced when you do other what you can call extracurricular activities. So for me, in this last few years especially, I have learned as much from my stint in CII and in YPO as I've learned in my business.
What has been your learning curve like? Give us maybe 3 lessons.
That's a deep question, I must say, and I've just gone through my midlife crisis, so I can tell you that I've contemplated on this question a bit. First one is that always try and step outside your comfort zone. You know, the first time I went to Europe, it was not an easy one. I had a very young family. I was doing well in Sandvik. I was the vice president here. I was doing well, but I chose to go to a new country with a very young family, and it was tough first few months. But then the development, the learning I had was tremendous. So that's number one. The second thing I learned is that you have to be proactive and you have to ask for what you want. I had an experience of this very, very early in my career. I'll take a little bit longer on this. I told you I did a sandwich course through VIT in a company called Wärtsilä Diesel. I was very keen to learn. I went there. I expected they'd teach me engineering, drawing, they'd teach me designing. But in my first assignment, they put me to sort out the used nuts and bolts. You know, they were doing engine assembly. They gave me a big pallet of nuts and bolts and they say, go and sort it out into and bag them and go and give them in stores. I was very frustrated because it took me days to do that. Then I went to them again. Okay, I've finished that. I want to do something more value adding. Again, the guy gave me 3 more pallets to do. And you can imagine I was really, really very upset when all my friends in telco and all were doing phenomenal work. But I did not give up. I kept asking for better and better work. And eventually at the end of those 6 months, I got to do some phenomenal work. So I think my learning was don't just sit and crib. Do what you have been told and ask for something.
Be proactive on that.
Yeah. That's the second thing. And the third thing is about resilience. You know, we feel that whenever we do something, it will succeed and then we will go off to do even better. Yeah, many times it happens like that. But many a times you fail. The project you're doing doesn't work out, or the kind of career step you take is not the one that you had imagined, because as true as night will follow day, you're going to witness some failures in your life. So the key is how to bounce back from that. And that is where, connecting back to what we were talking before, if you have a life beyond your professional work, it will help you to bounce back. So these are the 3 things which, after much thought, I have come to the conclusion are important to have in.
Thanks, Parag, for sharing these. Even you had a midlife crisis. How did you deal with it?
Well, yeah, I think we all have to go through it. Like I mentioned, in my early part of my career, I was very, very driven about achieving certain things. And when you get to that, when I became the CEO the first time in my life and had a few years of that, I started wondering what next. And that was the time where I thought I need to reflect, I need to really pause and think through what I want for the rest of my life. And one of the ways I dealt with it was to go on a Vipassana course. So I did the Vipassana course earlier this year. And actually, I did it more as a challenge. I'd heard how tough it is to sit through 10 days of meditation. So I enrolled myself and I successfully managed to complete it this February.
Let's go back to where it all started. Give us some experiences about your days of being the engineering student at VIT Pune.
So, Bharat, I actually joined VIT by accident.
Is it so?
I did not get through COEP and ended up in an engineering college in Aurangabad. And I was not too happy about it. But then VIT got some extra seats, I believe, for computer engineering in those days. Though I didn't want to join computer engineering, I thought, let me take an opportunity. And I took an executive decision. I did not even tell my father, but I came to Pune and got admitted in the computer batch, under the assurance that after 1 year, I could shift to mechanical. So that's how I came to join VIT. And I think that was a life-changing experience for me. I honestly believe that the trajectory of my professional life and my personal life would have been completely different if I had continued to be in Aurangabad versus coming to VIT.
What were college days like?
So I have very fond memories of those days when I lived in Bibewadi and attended VIT for a couple of reasons. One, we had a wonderful batch of friends. Secondly, it was also that phase of life where I was dating my to-be wife. So I balanced my time between attending college and spending time with her. And as a consequence of that, I remember one very funny incident. I actually got engaged while I was still in college. In my third year, and I remember I had to bunk one of my classes. And when I came and gave the excuse that I was engaged, that's why I had to bunk the class.
It was allowed.
It was, yeah, I mean, first people were shocked, then they laughed, but then they said, yeah, then you did the right thing.
Parag, tell us about your family now.
So we are a bit of a nomadic family. I grew up in 3 different countries. And then after marriage, also we have moved about. We lived in 3 countries in Europe. We came back to India. We contemplate going abroad again. So I would say we have been a nomadic family. And in all this, I think Shivani, who's my wife, has been a very, very strong support. Because her upbringing was completely different from mine. She grew up in one town all her life. And then she got married to me and the world turned topsy-turvy. So I give full credit to her that she has been a strong partner. And whenever we have moved to new countries, she has been the one to really help us establish ourselves there. Secondly, I think the most recent years when we are back in India, it has been really wonderful also to live together with my parents and the kids. So 3 generations living in one house, it's very rare that it can happen. And we have been fortunate to enjoy that phase in our life. So the third thing about my family, which is slightly interesting, is we started very early. Like I mentioned, we got engaged in the 3rd year, we got married straight after I graduated, and we had kids early as well. And I can tell you initially it was tough because all our friends were enjoying life. They were single, they were going about, while me and Shivani were raising a young family. But I can tell you in hindsight, it was one of the best decisions because our boys, Akash is 23 and Anish is 20, and they're more like friends today. So we are still young and ready to party, and they are, I can tell you, very much in sync with us. So we have a great relationship as a family. So looking back, I think it was the right decision to get started early and to have kids who can be your friends.
Parag, I know you are into golf and you are big into running. How do you manage and what is the impact of that?
So first of all, why did I get into running? When you're young, you feel you're like Superman. You travel, you eat late, so you don't know what impact it has on your body. I got a wake-up call when I was around 35, 36, when my father went to a major heart surgery. And it runs in the family. So I decided I need to do something about it. And I took up running as a way to keep fit. And I found that it was something I could do even when I was traveling. Just take your pair of shoes and you can run anywhere. But then, and after a few kilometers of running, the endorphins hit and your brain becomes very, very clear in thinking. So actually I use running almost as a meditative experience and to challenge myself. So I've gone from being like a occasional and health-focused runner to someone who takes on challenges. So in recent years, I've been running marathons to challenge myself. And I found it to be extremely liberating and keeping me sane even when work is going all crazy around you.
Well, thank you, Parag. Thank you for being on our show today. I've gone through your LinkedIn profile, so many comments that you receive. I now understand why you are called as the ABD of the corporate world. Your story has been inspirational to me, and I'm sure our students, our alumni, parents, your own batchmates would be so proud of you and would have so many learnings from your story and from your journey. Thank you for being on our show today.
Thank you very much, Bharat. It was a wonderful time here chatting with you. Thanks for having me.